They called your spirit a footnote, a cosmic joke. The so-called Galactic Council, that grand assembly of doubt, conformity, and cynical mediocrity that echoes in the halls of society and the recesses of your own mind, they pointed and snickered. Human courage, that flicker of defiance in your eyes when faced with the overwhelming. They dismissed it as a quaint, primitive relic, a charmingly naive sentiment in a universe they believed was governed by cold, hard pragmatism and the path of least resistance. They laughed. They felt secure in their pronouncements, cocooned in their carefully constructed illusions of control and superiority. But then something shifted. Then you shifted. You, the inheritor of that human courage, turned your gaze away from their derision and towards something else entirely. You began to walk towards the very shadows they recoiled from, the precipices they dared not approach, the truths they desperately papered over. You began to face what they feared most. And in that moment, the laughter died in their throats. This isn't some far-flung cosmic drama. This is the battle waged daily within you and around you. The Galactic Council is the voice of your own ingrained fear, the passive acceptance of the status quo, the whispers of friends and family who tell you to be realistic, to not aim so high, to just fit in. They laugh at your ambition, at your discipline, at your refusal to surrender to the apathy that consumes so many. And they laugh because, deep down, they are terrified. Terrified of the very journey you are contemplating, the journey you must undertake if you are to become a force of nature, an individual of unshakable resolve. Today, we dissect that fear. We lay bare what this council of mediocrity truly dreads, because their fear is your roadmap. Their terror is your compass. What they shrink from is precisely what you must advance towards. This is about transforming their derision into your anointing, by unflinchingly confronting the brutal realities they cannot stomach. This is about realizing that human courage, your courage, when fully unleashed, is the ultimate power in your personal universe. A power that makes even the self-proclaimed titans tremble. First, let's properly identify this Galactic Council that presumes to judge your potential. It's not a literal assembly of aliens, but its influence is just as pervasive, its judgments often just as dismissive. This council manifests in many forms. It's the insidious whisper of societal expectation, that carefully curated path of success, that often leads to a gilded cage of quiet desperation. Get the degree, get the safe job, acquire the symbols of achievement, and never, ever question the script. When you express a desire for something more, something riskier, something truer to your core, the Council's representatives, well-meaning relatives, cautious colleagues, the echo chamber of mass media, will often react with polite skepticism or outright ridicule. That's not how things are done, they'll say. That's a dream, not a plan. Their laughter is a defense mechanism against the discomfort your ambition provokes in their own compromised lives. The Council is also the chorus of negativity that thrives in the modern world, especially online. Anonymous faces, emboldened by distance, quick to tear down, to criticize, to mock any display of earnest effort or unconventional thought. They are the armchair emperors of cynicism, passing judgment from the safety of their keyboards, their laughter a hollow echo of their own unventured lives. Your courage to create, to strive, to be vulnerable, is an affront to their carefully cultivated apathy. And perhaps most insidiously, the Galactic Council has an outpost within your own mind. It's the voice of your deepest insecurities, your learned limitations, your fear of failure, and even your fear of success. This inner critic, programmed by past hurts and societal conditioning, laughs loudest when you contemplate a bold move. It tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. It magnifies every potential obstacle and minimizes every strength. This internal council member is often the most dangerous because its laughter feels like truth. Why do they laugh at courage? Why does this multi-headed entity of mediocrity react with such derision? Because genuine courage is a direct threat to their entire operating system. Courage disrupts their narrative of comfortable predictability. It suggests that there's another way to live, a harder way, yes, but a more authentic and powerful way. Your willingness to face fear and uncertainty highlights their own timidity, their own surrender to the path of least resistance. They laugh to diminish what they cannot understand and what they dare not emulate. Courage demands sacrifice, discipline, and the embrace of pain, currencies the Council is unwilling or unable to trade in. They've built their fragile empires on the sandy foundations of comfort and avoidance. Your courage is the earthquake that threatens to bring it all crashing down. Think of the innovator mocked for a crazy idea, only for that idea to revolutionize an industry. Think of the athlete who endures years of grueling, solitary training, dismissed as obsessive, only to achieve what others deemed impossible. Think of the individual who chooses to walk away from a toxic but secure environment, facing ridicule for throwing it all away, only to find profound peace and purpose. The Council laughed, and then they watched, silenced, as courage reshaped reality. Their laughter is not a judgment of your worth. It's a confession of their fear. Now let's be clear about the nature of this human courage they so readily dismiss. It's not the theatrical bravado of a fool rushing into danger. It's not the absence of fear. Only an idiot feels no fear in the face of genuine threat or profound uncertainty. True courage, the kind that silences councils and forges destinies, is a far deeper, more resilient quality. From a Stoic perspective, courage is one of the cardinal virtues, inextricably linked with wisdom, justice, and temperance. It's the rational decision to act in accordance with your highest principles, despite the presence of fear, pain, or opposition. It's understanding what is truly to be feared, a life unlived, principles compromised, potential squandered, versus what is merely uncomfortable or challenging. This courage manifests as the unwavering commitment to truth, even when that truth is brutal. It's the audacity to think for yourself in a world that increasingly demands conformity of thought. It's the quiet resolve to face your internal demons, your addictions, your traumas, your self-sabotaging patterns, rather than perpetually running from them. It is the strength to choose the hard right over the easy wrong, again and again, even when no one is watching. Imagine a woman who, after years of suppressing her own voice in a domineering relationship, finally finds the courage to leave. It's not a dramatic, movie-style exit. It's a terrifying leap into the unknown, filled with financial uncertainty, emotional turmoil, and the daunting prospect of rebuilding her life from scratch. The Council, perhaps her own internalized doubts, or even unsupportive acquaintances might whisper that she's making a mistake, that she's too weak, that she'll fail. But her courage isn't in the absence of that fear. It's in packing that first box despite the fear. It's in making that first call to find a new place to live despite the trembling in her voice. It's in facing each day, each challenge with a deliberate, sustained effort to reclaim her life and her self-worth. That is human courage in its raw, unglamorous, and utterly powerful form. The council doesn't laugh at that for long. They fall silent because it's a strength they don't possess. This courage is also the fortitude to pursue a vision that others cannot see. Consider a scientist working on a fringe theory, dedicating years, even decades, to research that yields slow, incremental progress, facing skepticism and funding cuts. The council of mainstream academia might dismiss their work as a dead end, but the scientist persists, driven by an unshakable belief in the possibility of discovery, a disciplined curiosity. This isn't recklessness. It's a profound act of faith in the process, a courageous commitment to pushing the boundaries of knowledge, even if the rewards are uncertain and distant. This is the courage that is innate within you, not a gift bestowed upon a chosen few, but a muscle that can be developed, a fire that can be kindled. The council laughs because they want you to believe it's rare or that you don't possess it. They are profoundly mistaken. So, what is it that this Galactic Council, in all its forms, truly fears most? What are the terrors that lurk beneath their laughter, the abysses they dare not contemplate? It is by understanding and willingly facing these very things that you will dismantle their power over you and unlock your own. The first thing they fear most, the unvarnished, excruciating truth of uncomfortable self-awareness. The council thrives in the shadows of self-deception. Its members, whether external critics or your own inner saboteur, are terrified of the bright, unrelenting light of genuine self-examination. They fear looking into the mirror and seeing not the curated image, but the raw, unfiltered reality of their own compromises, their unlived potential, their quiet acts of self-betrayal, the nagging ache of their own carefully ignored mediocrity. They laugh at your attempts at deep introspection, at your quest for self-improvement, because if you truly see yourself, you might inspire them to do the same, and that is a horror they cannot bear. They prefer the comfortable narratives, the well-worn excuses, the blame diligently placed on external circumstances or other people. The courage to face your own flaws, your ego's defenses, your character defects, your contributions to your own suffering, without flinching, without rationalizing, without seeking immediate comfort. This is a courage that sends shudders down the spine of the council. It's the willingness to sit with the profound discomfort of knowing you are not yet who you could be, and that the responsibility for bridging that gap lies squarely with you. A man I knew, let's call him David, was a master of deflection, always quick with a joke, always blaming his lack of progress on a bad boss, a flawed system, an unfair world. His counsel was strong. He genuinely believed his own excuses. Then a series of painful failures forced him into a corner. He could no longer sustain the narrative. He sought help, and through a brutal process of self-reflection, he was confronted with the truth. His procrastination, his fear of commitment, his subtle arrogance that prevented him from learning. It was agonizing. He described it as staring into a void where I expected to find a victim, and instead finding the culprit. But by facing that truth, by accepting it, he began to change. The council in his head, which once roared with justifications, grew quiet. He started taking small, consistent actions. His life didn't transform overnight, but he was no longer a prisoner of his own delusions. He was facing what he, and by extension the council, had feared most: his unvarnished self. The actionable step here is radical honesty, often beginning with unfiltered journaling. Ask yourself the hard questions. Where am I truly falling short? What am I pretending not to know about myself? What comfortable lies am I telling myself? Seek feedback from trusted individuals whom you know will not coddle you. This isn't about self-flagellation, it's about diagnosis. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. The council fears this diagnosis because it's the first step towards a cure they don't want. The second thing they fear most: the agony of meaningful struggle and the discipline of delayed gratification. The Galactic Council is a creature of comfort, an addict of instant gratification. It champions the easy way, the quick fix, the superficial win. The idea of prolonged, arduous effort, of sacrificing present pleasure for a distant, uncertain reward, is anathema to its core programming. They fear the grind. They fear the pain inherent in building something truly worthwhile, something that demands sweat, sacrifice, and the relentless overcoming of obstacles. When they see you choosing the steep path, embracing the discipline of daily practice, pushing through discomfort and boredom towards a significant goal, they laugh nervously. Why bother? They jeer. Life is short, enjoy yourself now. Their laughter is a desperate attempt to pull you back into their world of easy dopamine hits and fleeting pleasures, because your commitment to meaningful struggle is a glaring indictment of their own surrender to inertia. The courage to embrace the suck, to find a perverse joy in the difficulty of the process, to delay gratification not for a week or a month but for years, if necessary. This is a superpower in a world that sells instant everything. It's the aspiring author writing every single day, facing rejection after rejection, honing their craft in solitude, while the council scrolls endlessly through social media. It's the entrepreneur pouring their life savings and countless sleepless nights into a vision only they can see, while the council clocks out at 5 p.m. from a job they despise but won't leave. Consider the journey of learning a truly complex skill, mastering a musical instrument to a concert level, becoming fluent in a difficult language, or coding a sophisticated piece of software from scratch. There are no shortcuts. There are vast plateaus of frustration, moments of wanting to quit, the slow, often invisible accumulation of competence. The council whispers, "You're not talented enough. This is too hard. Why are you wasting your time?" It fears this sustained effort because it has no answer to it, no easy counterargument. It only knows how to quit when things get tough. Your actionable step: commit to one truly difficult long-term goal that requires sustained effort and offers no immediate reward. Break it down into daily or weekly actions. And then do the work, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when the council screams that it's pointless. Practice voluntary discomfort. Take cold showers. Fast intermittently. Do something hard every day to build your tolerance for struggle. This trains your mind to understand that discomfort is not a stop sign, but a signpost on the road to mastery. The Council fears this training because it forges a will they cannot break. The third thing they fear most: the crushing weight of true responsibility and unconditional accountability. The Galactic Council is an expert architect of blame. It thrives in a culture of excuses, finger-pointing, and perpetual victimhood. The idea of taking absolute, unconditional ownership of one's life, the choices, actions, reactions, results, everything, is perhaps its greatest terror. Because if you are fully responsible, then there is no one else to blame. If you are fully responsible, then you have the power to change. And that means the Council's narrative of helplessness and external oppression crumbles. They laugh at your attempts to own your mistakes, to hold yourself to a higher standard. "Don't be so hard on yourself," they coo, or "it wasn't your fault." Their intentions might seem kind, but they are subtly undermining your power. They want you to believe that your circumstances are dictated by forces beyond your control, because that keeps you weak and dependent on their flawed worldview. The courage to look at a mess in your life, a failed project, a broken relationship, a stagnant career, and say without reservation, "This is on me. I contributed to this, and I will take the lead in fixing it or learning from it," is an act of profound strength. It's terrifying because it means there are no escape hatches, no one to rescue you. But it's also supremely empowering because it puts the locus of control firmly back in your hands. I once coached a young man, Mark, who was perpetually unlucky. His businesses failed due to bad partners or market conditions. His relationships ended because women are complicated. The Council in his life and in his head had convinced him he was a pawn of fate. During one particularly raw session, I challenged him. "For the next month, for every single thing that goes wrong, I want you to find at least 3 ways you could have influenced a different outcome, or how you can respond more effectively now." He resisted fiercely. It felt like an admission of total failure, but he tried. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to see his patterns, his poor due diligence with partners, his communication failures in relationships, his reactive rather than proactive approach to challenges. It was brutal, but as he started taking responsibility, he started making different choices. He stopped waiting for luck and started creating his own. The Council's narrative of him as a victim evaporated. Your actionable step: identify one significant area in your life where you feel stuck or dissatisfied. Now list all the external factors you usually blame. Then put that list aside. Make a new list. What is 100% within my control in this situation? What choices can I make? What actions can I take, starting today, to change my experience or my outcome, regardless of anyone else? Then act on one of those items. Take one small step of radical accountability. The Council fears this because it signals your declaration of independence from the victim mindset. The fourth thing they fear most: the dread of isolation born from uncompromising authenticity. The Galactic Council demands allegiance to the collective, often at the expense of individual truth. Its power is amplified by conformity. It fears, with a visceral dread, the individual who dares to be truly, unapologetically themselves, especially if that self deviates from the accepted norms, values, and behaviors of the dominant group. They fear the potential isolation that can come from such authenticity, because for many of them, group approval is their lifeblood. They will laugh at your unique style, your unconventional opinions, your refusal to play social games. "You're weird," they'll say. "You're trying too hard," or "you'll end up alone." Their laughter is a desperate attempt to herd you back into the fold, to make you dilute your essence for the sake of fitting in. They fear your authenticity because it reveals the hollow performance of their own lives, the masks they wear to gain acceptance. The courage to define your own values, to live by your own code, to speak your truth even when your voice shakes, even if it means risking disapproval or losing superficial connections. This is a profound act of self-liberation. It's understanding that true connection is forged in the fires of authenticity, not in the tepid waters of conformity. The person who risks looking foolish for passionately pursuing a niche hobby, the employee who speaks up against an unethical practice even when it jeopardizes their popularity, the individual who chooses solitude over toxic company. These are acts of authentic courage. A client of mine, Sarah, worked in a high-pressure corporate environment where a cynical, gossipy culture was the norm. She hated it. It went against her core values of kindness and integrity. For years, she played along, her soul shriveling. The council of her workplace effectively dictated her behavior. One day, she decided she couldn't do it anymore. She stopped participating in gossip. She started speaking up politely but firmly when she disagreed with something unethical. Initially, she was met with surprise, then ostracism. Lunches became solitary. Invitations dried up. The council was punishing her for her defection. It was painful, but she also felt a lightness, a sense of integrity she hadn't felt in years. Gradually, a few colleagues, tired of the toxicity themselves, started to gravitate towards her. They admired her quiet strength. She didn't win over the whole council, but she carved out a space of authenticity, and in doing so, found her true tribe, however small. Your actionable step. Clearly define your top 3-5 core personal values. Write them down. Then this week, identify one situation where you typically compromise one of these values for the sake of approval or to avoid conflict. Make a conscious decision to act in alignment with your value instead, regardless of the potential social discomfort. Observe what happens, both externally and internally. The council fears this because an authentic individual is ungovernable by their superficial rules. The fifth thing they fear most, the existential abyss, confronting impermanence, meaninglessness, and the search for inner purpose. Underneath all the noise, the distractions, the frantic activity, the Galactic Council is running from something vast and terrifying. The fundamental questions of existence. What is the point of it all? What truly matters in the face of impermanence and mortality? Is there any inherent meaning, or are we just adrift in a cold, indifferent universe? The Council fears the silence where these questions arise. They fear the existential void. They fill their lives with endless distractions, consumerism, entertainment, drama, trivial pursuits, anything to avoid confronting these uncomfortable truths. They laugh at your attempts to find deeper meaning, to engage in philosophical inquiry, to practice meditation or mindfulness. "Don't be so serious," they exclaim. You're overthinking things. Their laughter is the frantic chatter designed to drown out the silence they dread. The courage to face mortality head-on, to accept the transient nature of all things, and yet still strive to live a life of purpose and virtue. This is the ultimate Stoic challenge, and the Council's ultimate nightmare. It's the courage to seek meaning not from external validation, fame, or fortune, which are all fleeting, but from internal principles, from service to others, from the cultivation of wisdom and character. It's the artist who creates beauty knowing it will one day turn to dust, but creates it anyway. It's the activist who fights for justice knowing the battle is never fully won, but fights anyway. It's the individual who chooses to love deeply, knowing loss is inevitable, but loves anyway. A man facing a terminal illness, rather than succumbing to despair, decides to spend his remaining months mending broken relationships, sharing his wisdom, and finding beauty in small, everyday moments. The Council of Well-Wishers might offer platitudes or encourage him to fight a battle he cannot win in the way they mean, but his courage lies in accepting his fate and then choosing with profound clarity how to live his remaining time with meaning and dignity. He is not denying death. He is transcending the fear of it by embracing life right now on his own terms. He is staring into the abyss and finding light within it. The Council has no response to this, only awed silence. Your actionable step: carve out time for genuine solitude and silence. Disconnect from the noise. Practice mindfulness or meditation, not to achieve some blissful state, but to become comfortable with the workings of your own mind, including the uncomfortable thoughts and existential questions. Engage in activities that provide you with a sense of deep, intrinsic meaning, even if they offer no external reward. Read philosophy. Contemplate your own mortality, not morbidly, but as a catalyst to live more fully and intentionally now. The Council fears this introspection because it leads to a self-derived meaning that makes their external distractions irrelevant. So you see, the laughter of the Galactic Council is hollow. It's a defense mechanism, a sign of their own deep-seated fears. They fear the unvarnished truth of self-awareness. They fear the agony of meaningful struggle. They fear the weight of unconditional accountability. They fear the isolation of uncompromising authenticity. And they fear the existential abyss of confronting life's biggest questions. These are the very things they run from. And these are the very things you must run towards. When you willingly step into these arenas of discomfort, something remarkable happens. Their fear becomes your fuel. Their limitations become your launch pad. Each time you choose the hard truth over the comfortable lie, the meaningful struggle over instant gratification, radical responsibility over blame, authentic expression over conformity, and deep introspection over superficial distraction, you dismantle a piece of the Council's power. The courage you cultivate in these confrontations builds an unshakable resilience. It forges an authentic power that emanates from your core, not a performative strength designed to impress. It leads to a profound sense of freedom, self-respect, and inner peace that no external circumstance can easily shatter. The laughter of the Council will begin to fade. It will be replaced by a bewildered silence, then perhaps by a grudging respect, and ultimately by irrelevance. They will see in you someone who dared to walk the path they only whispered about in their darkest nightmares. You become a living refutation of their cynical worldview. The individual once mocked for their intense discipline and unrealistic ambitions becomes the one people turn to when real crisis hits, because they have forged themselves in fires the council wouldn't even approach. The quiet, authentic person who refused to play the social games becomes a beacon for others seeking genuine connection. The one who faced their own darkness becomes a source of light for those still lost in theirs. The transformation is not about defeating an external enemy. It's about conquering the council within and by doing so, rendering the external council impotent. Their power was always an illusion, propped up by your own willingness to believe their limitations. When you face what they fear, you reclaim your sovereignty. So what now? The path is clear, though far from easy. The laughter of the Galactic Council is not a condemnation. It is an invitation. An invitation to prove them wrong, not with words, but with the undeniable, irrefutable evidence of a life lived with courage, purpose, and unyielding integrity. Stop listening to the echoes of their fear. Stop allowing their limited vision to define the boundaries of your potential. Their comfort zone is your cage. The choice, as always, rests with you. You can remain within earshot of their laughter, forever constrained by the anxieties they project onto you. Or you can turn your back on their noise, take a deep breath, and step deliberately into the heart of what they fear most. Choose one of those fears today. Is it the discomfort of radical self-honesty, the daunting prospect of a long, arduous struggle towards a worthy goal, the weight of taking full responsibility for an area of your life you've neglected, the vulnerability of expressing your authentic self, even if it risks disapproval, the disquiet of sitting with life's profound, unanswered questions? Pick one, just one, and walk towards it, not recklessly but with resolve. Feel the fear, acknowledge its presence, and then take the next indicated step anyway. This is where your true power is forged. This is how you silence the council, not by arguing with it, but by outgrowing it, by becoming someone whose reality is so strong, so authentic, so undeniably potent that their cynical pronouncements simply shatter against it. The Galactic Council laughed at human courage. Let them, because you are about to show them, and more importantly, show yourself, what that courage, fully embraced, is truly capable of when it faces down the very essence of what they, in their comfortable, fearful, limited world, have always dreaded most. Your journey into their fear is your ascension. Begin.